and hopefully I won't get, like, assaulted at Flagship.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Channel 1031, the show where I interview other haunters about spooky things in the Halloween community or things that they recently announced and things that they have upcoming. Today is a very special episode, to say the least. I have a very interesting guest. He's got over 42,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's right, 42,000, 3 zeros. He's a horror movie super fan, and based off some very mysterious uploads on his YouTube channel, he's got some pretty creepy things coming for the Halloween 2021 season. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest for Channel 1031 today is the one and only Hauntformer. Welcome to the show.
GMHaunts, you flatter me. Thanks for having me on.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's here. This is a very big episode. Really excited to talk to Mac about a whole bunch of spooky stuff. So I guess without further ado, let's get to the questions. Alright, so I'm going to start off the interview with a question that I like to ask a lot of my guests. And I feel like I say this every interview now because I do like doing it. So I ask all of my guests this question because it sort of explains how they start doing what they're doing, how they create a YouTube channel, and sort of why they like what they like so much. So the first question is, obviously you are a huge fan of Halloween and all types of spooky things. What started your love for the holiday, and what made you originally want to see scary things, want to own scary things, and want to create a YouTube channel around the holiday?
Well, to save you from me telling you an essay, because I could, I'll keep this as brief as I can. So I've always loved holidays. I don't know why. My parents, so both of my parents have worked at theme parks over the years, and done shows and stuff, like at Busch Gardens, which is kind of a Tampa place, but also Disney. And so a lot of times they would travel for work, so I would stay with my grandparents, and they would they'd ask me, Mac, what do you want to watch? And I would put on either the Disney Christmas special or more likely the Disney Halloween special. And in that Halloween special, there were these skeletons that would dance to the Spooky Scary Skeletons song. And so I wanted a skeleton. And so whereas most kids have like a little teddy bear that they play with, I had a little skeleton. It was a latex prop. I have a picture of it somewhere. And that thing was like my little buddy. And I had him for many, many years. And so I think I've always kind of liked that weird, creepy stuff. I used to draw zombies in elementary school, and my parents actually had a parent-teacher conference with my second grade teacher because she thought I was like, I needed therapy. But it was just because I like props. I actually would draw the death crawler from Spirit.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You know, he has no legs, so of course my teacher, like, looking through pictures that the students drew and was like, oh shoot, this kid's gonna like kill someone. But I'm very harmless. And so I want to say I started going to Spirit specifically, gosh, it must have been 2006 or 7. It's before I even can remember. It goes as far back as my memories can. But I do remember going in those years before they even had ISEs and themes, when it was just like, okay, here's a bunch of stuff in the back of the store, go buy it with boxes. And then I remember the science lab they had, and I think that was 2008. And that was so cool to me, with the dude with the brain that was exposed. And ever since then, I was hooked. And it inspired me to start a haunted house. There were actually a few YouTubers that I watched before I joined YouTube, because there wasn't a community that there is now for haunting. There were like 3 people. It was like, the ones I remember were Jaden's Videos, who I'm now friends with, Joe Bean videos, Jordan, and this dude named Braden Horror Haunt Productions, who doesn't even do it anymore. I don't even know what Braden does anymore. I'm friends with him on Facebook. But those guys started the spirit stuff, and then besides that, there was Haunting Hooligan, I think his name was, and Jackal Halloween, which did the haunt stuff. And I was always intrigued with that. And I think that mixed with the Distortions videos, if you remember the ones of their products, I watched the crap out of those a lot when I was a kid. And so in 2012, we started a haunt actually at this house, which is kind of interesting. My Wi-Fi sucks, so I had to move our interview here. But it's funny because this is the house where I started the haunt in 2012. And the year later, I started Haunt Former. And so ever since then, it's just been nonstop doing the grind of spooky stuff.
Well, I'll definitely say it's interesting to hear from you about the pioneers kind of like the Halloween community, because not a lot of people, I'll say this, none of the people I've interviewed, I got to interview Jaden's videos, which you said was one of them.
Yeah, he's a throwback.
Yeah. So but there hasn't been really anyone else who can even remember watching them. I know I definitely can't because I'm younger than you are, and I didn't grow up in that time when those people were doing it, and when they were the only ones. Yeah. But it's so interesting to hear from you about this time that it was very, very small, and it ended up growing into what it is now today, with like a ton of people. Flagship store at Spirit is a thing that is like well known to everyone now, and yeah, it's like it's grown to something that is way bigger, and I'm sure it was really interesting. Like you're saying, in the time you were watching it, that it was very different. There weren't nearly as many people. There weren't as many things to look forward to. Because also, like another thing, like just as an example, like Spirit sneak peeks were not really a thing. They were sort of just uploaded like onto the channel without graphics or anything. So that was another difference back in the time that you were talking about.
I didn't even mention the sneak peeks. The sneak peeks weren't even on YouTube. They used to be on their Facebook. And we would go over the summer in July to Orlando, because I live in Florida, for a vacation. And I would tell my parents, hey, I have to go to the office building at the hotel. You know, like they have a computer room with a printer. And I would log into my Facebook that I made to access Spirit. And I would wait, and they would drop it at like 7 o'clock. And it was like just the stock image with a white background. And I would freak out. But now they have like cinematic movies.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like you said, it's crazy where it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. It really shows how much like the Halloween YouTube community has evolved, and even not even the community, but also like the way companies operate, the amount of product that's released every year, how it's shown off. Again, it's just really interesting to hear from you, one of the people who got to experience it and grew up in like the era of young Halloween haunters, to hear your vision and all that, which is just really interesting. This next question continues to talk about another thing you really like about Halloween, something you talk about a lot on your YouTube channel, and that's horror movies. So the question is, you are also a very big horror movie fan, as am I. I just had to mention that.
I can.
What movies were the beginning of your interest? What horror films did you see first, and what kind of intrigued you to watch more horror movies? What are some of your favorites, and what are the things that were like, hey, I need to see more of this. I want to see what other movies are in this genre.
Again, you could open Pandora's box here, because I love talking horror movies. It's funny because I work at a movie theater now, and I'm kind of known as the horror movie guy. Like, if a new movie comes out, they'll come to me and be like, Mac, what do you think about Us or whatever? But I wasn't always the horror fan, because I'm a squeamish person, and a lot of people don't know that. And so I've always avoided horror movies when I was a kid. I did see a few. The ones that I can remember watching, if you count it, Gremlins, which is kind of a lesser horror. Jaws, which isn't, it almost has transcended. It's like a blockbuster. The only real authentic horror movie that I remember as a kid watching was Pet Sematary, which was freaky. It was very freaky. And then AMC had its Fear Fest that they did for years. They still do it. And they played Child's Play 2. And I remember it was on TV, and I was about to turn it off. And I sat and I actually watched Child's Play 2, and this was more recent than, like, this was 2014 or 15. And I watched Child's Play 2 the whole way, and I'm like, that wasn't so bad. It was also edited for TV. But I really liked the story, and I liked the horror aspect, and I'm like, horror movies to me are kind of like celebrating Halloween all year. Even when the Halloween vibe goes away, it's not weird to watch a horror movie in February. And so I started watching, you know, it started with the Chucky movies. I also watched the Halloween movies with Michael Myers. And from there it spawned off. I've seen most horror movies that you can think of now. And it's funny because some of the ones that I really cherish were ones that I didn't like when I first saw them. The first time I watched The Shining, I thought it was really boring, and I didn't get it. And I'm like, where's the "here's Johnny" part? This doesn't, where is it? Where's the axe? Because if you've seen the movie, you know it doesn't happen until the very end. And now it's like one of my favorite movies ever. That and The Exorcist, I would say, are the two best horror films. But there's a whole slew of movies that I really love. I love obscure horror movies like The Stuff, which is a movie about killer ice cream, or the original Wicker Man, not the Nick Cage one, the original. I also love horror comedies too, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is why I'm excited to see Spirit this year. But just all the classics. I love old black and white movies too. The Universal monsters like Frankenstein, Dracula, Psycho, even modern horror. Even recently, I just watched Old and I really loved it. Us, Get Out. There's a lot. It's a good time to be a horror fan, and I've realized on my channel that horror isn't my go-to thing that people think of when they think of me. Like, if you go to my channel right now, my horror movie reviews have a lot less views than the Spirit ones. But I like it. So I'll always do it because it's what I enjoy, whether or not the audience does.
Well, I'll say it's actually really funny that you brought up Child's Play with some of the first movies you saw, because I actually know for a fact Child's Play was the first horror film series that I got to watch.
Really?
Yeah, I was always, so, like, obviously I've always had a love for Halloween, and around, like, 5, 6, 7, 8, around that age, I really started to show interest in, like, specific characters. Seeing clips from the movies, Ghostface, Michael Myers, Leatherface, he wasn't really on there because he's more of an obscure, but Jason, obviously Freddy Krueger, and I started to show a lot of interest in those, and I wanted to see them, and my parents were like, you know, they can get pretty gory. Eventually, they were like, you know what, my dad was like, I'll let you watch the Child's Play movies, because they're pretty tame, they're not that bad. So we ended up watching all those, and it was like, alright, that went well, I liked them. And it just progressed to, like, I think then we watched all the Halloween, which is still my favorite series of all time, and I love Halloween. Yeah. But it's just funny that you kind of started off with the same thing, and just, like, looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, we saw Child's Play first, and that was sort of tame, and then, like, about a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I was allowed to watch Terrifier, which was probably not what I should have seen before. But,
that's intense.
Yeah, Terrifier can get pretty bad. But it just shows, like, obviously how you progress and see things. It's like, well, let's start off with something really tame, to, like, a couple years later, I'm watching something that is gory and, like, a very bad movie for an ordinary person to watch. But I guess it really shows that horror movie fans, it just gets, like, ramped up to something, and it just goes up and up as you get older.
I know.
It's super interesting.
It's a crazy thing. And when you said that, I thought of 4 things, so I'll go through them fast. So the first thing is that when I was younger, because I didn't watch those movies, I never knew those characters, and so I never bought the props. And I kick myself to this day for all the props I missed. Ghostface being the biggest one, which is why I have to get him now. Even though this one's not nearly as good, my hands are tied. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, you mentioned Terrifier. The girl in that movie that gets the... I won't spoil it. She gets the axe, but not the axe, the saw. I believe she DM'd me. She actually watches Hauntformer, which I thought was really funny.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was kind of cool. So that was one thing. Or she saw my Instagram or something. I don't know. And then, of course, when Terrifier got big, I wrote her back, and then she never responded. So, fun.
If she's watching this, she's probably not, but right back to Mac.
Yeah. Yes, if you're watching my GMHaunts interview, please respond to me. My third thing is, because Child's Play 2 started my love of horror, I don't know how my parents got him. I still to this day don't know. But on my 21st birthday, my parents, I should say, actually got Alex Vincent to come to my birthday party.
Wow.
Who plays Andy. And I never did it on my channel because it was a surprise, so I didn't have my camera ready. But it was such a neat experience meeting him. He actually brought the Chucky from Cult of Chucky.
Oh, wow.
So he lives in our area, and so I thought that was so cool to share. Okay, so the fourth thing that I just remembered is that when I was younger, I made a vow to myself that I wouldn't watch any of the Saw movies because I felt they were too gross. And I said, I can't watch those. I'm going to be sick. I'm not going to do it. Since then, I've seen all of the Saw films, and Saw is one of my favorite horror movies. So just because you may think you won't like a movie, give it a chance. That's not to you, but that's to the audience, because that's a good lesson that I've learned.
Well, that's definitely a little interesting story. These next couple questions, well, actually, it's like one question. This next question goes into another thing that you have done on the YouTube channel, and it sort of loosely ties into something you're hinting about now. But this first question is, you've done some haunts in the past, Insomnia and The End are just to name a couple. What is the design process for you, creating haunts? How do you come up with room ideas and scare ideas? What is your process of saying, I want to do a haunt, to it's built, you're doing a walkthrough, you're opening it up? What is the process there?
So I actually wanted to do a series on this, which I very well might, but to give you an abridged version, well, the first thing is you have to figure out the theme of the haunt, what you actually want the haunt to be. Some haunts are story-driven. I think Jaden's videos probably does the best story-driven haunts because he actually legit like types it all out on like Wattpad. So my haunts are typically thematic, but they're not character-driven. They're more of plot-based. And typically you'll see with a lot of my haunts, and subsequently this year too, they're more or less somehow, I don't know if sci-fi is the right word, because sci-fi makes you think of like outer space, but they are science fiction in a way, because that's one of my favorite types of horror, I guess. Whether it's something with experiments or insane asylums, mental, whatever the case may be, I fit in that groove with zombies and aliens. And so when I picked the theme, and it goes into actually mapping out the layout, which usually is one of the first parts of my haunt builds when I do them seasonally. So I'll map it all out, like, okay, here's where this has to go. These are the rooms that I want to do. Picking the rooms kind of comes down to knowing what your theme is, what you want to show off, and knowing your limitations, too, because you can't do some grandiose thing. Like, and I've made that mistake. Like, for Abandon, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a roller coaster track. What? No, I'm not. There's no roller coaster track. It was a cardboard box. But if you can figure out in advance what you're going to need, it'll make your supplies list a lot easier. Then you go get your stuff, actually assemble it, which is the fun part. But a lot of people overlook, a lot of people go right to props and go, props, I need a bunch of animatronics. And I love that part of this hobby. But just as important, if not more important, is the lighting and the sound design of your haunt. Because that goes a long way in showcasing the props. Also getting actors that are able to work with your display will serve you well. Now, some people, like the first year I did my haunt, it was really more of a display. And even with that, I would say lighting's very important. But it's just to remember, above all else, too, to have fun with it. And so whatever you do, even if you put a clown with a scarecrow, is just make it your own and make it fun.
Yeah,
it's Halloween.
Well, how you brought up that your first year was a display, I brought this up in a couple different interviews of talking about haunts. I don't want to give away too much, but for everyone watching out there, there's something that I've been working on for Halloween, and it's sort of more how you're talking about a display. I don't know. I'm working on something, a little teaser for it very soon. But it's done. It's complete. I have it. And it's recorded and all that. But it sounds similar to how your first year was, in the sense that it's more of a display than it is a haunt. But I can't wait to do that, and it sounds very interesting. What your design process is, and I like the idea that you're talking about, how people sort of overthink it sometimes with animatronics, because I agree. I think there's a lot people can do with even just the display of it, and not really the props, but how you can do lighting, how you can make actors be involved in it, and the animatronics are just something else to kind of add another layer to it. So yeah, I think even more important sometimes is how the display looks without the animatronics, and is it a cool idea, and is it a cool display? So I really like your take on that. This next question ties into the haunt thing, which is why I put them right next to each other. And I don't know what you want to give away right now, but since it's for maybe sort of ties into the haunts, the question is, you've been releasing some very strange videos on the channel recently that people have caught up on. Recently, such as leaked.avi and foundcam.mp4. Would you be willing to give away any hints or any clues to what the meaning of the videos are? What does Mac have for the future? Are there any secrets that you have to unveil for us?
Yes, because this is a GMHaunts exclusive, I'll give you some of the deets. I love ARGs, which, if you don't know what that means, it's augmented reality games. Look up Marble Hornets on YouTube if you haven't watched Marble Hornets. It's a Slenderman ARG, and it's really good. Found footage is kind of a thing that I enjoy, and cryptic stuff. That goes with the sci-fi stuff that I love. So this isn't the first year where I've done weird teasers. It's kind of a staple of mine now. So to fully answer is they are leading to something. This year's haunt is very different. And it's a haunt, but it's not really a haunted house. If I had to give any inkling as to where this year is going for me, it's a haunted trail.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's where it changes the game a little bit. Because last year, if you guys didn't know, I didn't do a haunt. And partially of that was due to the vid. And I'm like, I just want to play it safe. You know, there's health regulations. I'm not going to worry about it. But now this year is a lot more lax, especially in our county. And I still want to play it safe. So I'm like, is there a way I can do it outside? Is there a way I can make it work? Plus, that creates a different environment for the haunt. And so this year is going to be more of an outdoor experience, whereas my usual haunts are inside, which I've never done before, so this will be a learning experience this year for me. But the theming, which those teasers are leading to, I think will work well with that setting.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A little exclusive take from Hauntformer. I guess we have a haunted trail coming for 2021. If you haven't checked out the teasers, obviously Mac is linked at the top of the description. Go check them out. They're very creepy, very cryptic, like he said, and they're very well put together, and there's definitely some jump scares in them. I'll say that, with the noises and various things that play at the end of them. So they're really interesting, and it gives you a little idea up to what he has coming. So obviously, a lot of companies have been releasing their 2021 items around this time. A lot of different stuff coming out at this time. And you've been doing a lot of videos, keeping up on all of it, reacting to all of it. What products and companies are you most looking forward to for 2021? Things you're excited for, things you're not. What are you looking forward to for the Halloween 2021 season?
Well, I'm definitely not looking forward to Cracker Barrel. That's not a dig to anyone who loves Cracker Barrel stuff. That's just not my vibe. I think Spirit did a really good job this year. I know most fans agree. There are a few interesting people that don't, and I'm curious to hear their take on why. But last year I really enjoyed Spirit too. I didn't like the theming so much. The nautical stuff is a little weird for a Halloween store, but after 2013, I wasn't as big of a fan of the Spirit, especially the themes. So like 2014, this is a hot take. I wasn't a big fan of the ruins. A lot of people like it, but sue me. So 2014 to like 2018, there wasn't really there were a few themes I really like. Obviously, the Area 31, the subway. There were some cool things. But Spirit for a while was like getting kind of muddled for me. But the last 2 years, they've really improved, in my opinion. And this year is like one of the best. And so there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to. Obviously, Ghostface and Shorty, because I'm a movie guy. But outside of that, a lot of these props are really intriguing to me. Mr. Howl is one that's on my radar, obviously because, like I mentioned, my haunt is outside this year, so I think a werewolf would work well for the environment in the grass or in a tree line or something. He would be cool. I also like the girl with the demon behind her. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but she's really creepy. We haven't seen the whole video of her, at least at the recording of this. I don't know when Spirit's releasing this stuff. It's kind of up in the air at this point. I love Grimm because of the technology. I do think they should reskin Grimm in the future into other characters, or at least use that technology in different props. But outside of Spirit, I've noticed that Big Lots is getting a few interesting things this year, and so I'm interested to see them. Michael's, as always, I look forward to their Spooky Town whenever they're going to get it in the next 3 months. I don't know, their shipping's backed up. And of course, Home Depot. Home Depot's been on the rise, though I'm really disappointed about my man-eating plant because it talks. Home Depot, my man, why does the plant talk and talk about candy? I don't get it. But it still does look cool. The Jester is obviously fantastic. So all that to say, this is going to be a very promising year, especially with Candyman and Halloween coming out. Because when you have Halloween movies with the props, to me, that's what makes a good season.
All right, so there is one last main question for you, and it's about something that a lot of people like know that you did, but then I feel like it kind of was less talked about now because it was a little while ago, but I wanted to bring it back into discussion because I was very interested in it. And the question is, on April 1st of 2020, you created a joke paper saying that Spirit Halloween would not be opening due to the pandemic. What happened after the video got released? What happened after you showed this paper? And what caused the follow-up video saying that it was a hoax? What kind of happened in the timeline of you publishing the video, and then what happened after that paper got released?
This video has haunted me. I'm a criminal. So what happened was, every year I make an April Fool's prank video or something of some kind. I also do funny ones on Instagram. So be sure to check out my Instagram if you haven't. That's a plug. But I wanted to do a funny thing about Spirit because, well, there's two reasons. One of them is obviously because Spirit's a popular thing on my channel and it would be funny to make fun of it. And the second reason, which is a little more selfish of me perhaps, is because every time I put Spirit in the name of a video, it gets clicks, which means I make money off of it. So I'm like, okay, I get 2 wins and a spike in revenue in April. So I make this thing that's like Spirit's not opening because I'm like, I have to do something with the pandemic. That's too great of an opportunity. I didn't realize that someone was going to screenshot the fake letter that I put in my video, which I typed up, and spread it around the internet. Because in the context of the video, it's a joke, and I talk about what was it, Bed Bath & Beyond's
the orange
Halloween
towels.
orange towels. Yeah, and so I didn't think that I posted it and I was done, and it was gone for a few months because I posted it in April. Then at the end of like May, start of June, I'm on a bunch of Halloween Facebook groups, and I see it, and I'm like, how did this get out? And the comments are just so mean. It was honestly funny, but also traumatizing because people are like, I'm gonna kill whoever posted this, or like, whoever did this is a loser, or all of this stuff, because at first everyone was concerned that it was closing. Then the news got out that it was a hoax, and they're like, whoever did this, shame on you. And I'm like, well, now I feel bad. So I made an apology video. It was kind of like I didn't really mean for this to happen. And from what I know, Spirit they posted something about like, we are actually opening, which was kind of funny that they responded to it. But from what I know from like people I'm in contact with at Spirit, they haven't really said anything. So I'm kind of glad about that. And hopefully I won't get like assaulted at Flagship. So yeah.
So the bloody bonus question for Hauntformer is, if a Halloween company were to make an officially licensed Hauntformer animatronic, what special features or details would it have?
Well, obviously it would have to say, hey buddy, have a great day. Because somehow that's a meme of mine that I started. And now that we brought it up here, I think it should have a fake letter as an accessory piece for it, as tradition. Man, what kind of special things would my Hauntformer Deluxe life-size animated, officially licensed Hauntformer prop do? Maybe it would have all the horrible props that I made in the past, like my Jeff the Killer and my Slender Man with the ghetto sagging pants. Maybe you could have those in the box too, so you can assemble them for yourself. It's like a multi-purpose prop.
Halloween companies out there, Spirit, Home Depot, Lowe's, SVI, all the companies. Mac just gave you all the details. Get to work. It's easy. Just gotta make up the skulls. It's real easy. I'm sure Mac would be willing to send you a picture of his face. You could make a sculpt. Boom. 2022 Mac animatronic coming out for 2021.
I'd probably buy it with a coupon.
Yep, exactly. Get it with a coupon. You get it for a little bit cheaper, and you can get the Mac animatronic for 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up this Channel 1031 interview with Hauntformer Mac, whatever you want to call him. Obviously, every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, a Channel 1031 episode releasing a new guest, a new interview, very cool stuff coming for the future. I will let you know that. I had a ton of fun talking to Hauntformer today, asking him about all sorts of spooky things, and I guess look out for some more Channel 1031 episodes coming on future Fridays. Ladies and gentlemen, remember as always, for everything scary, I'm GMHaunts. I'll see you guys later for more Channel 1031 episodes. Goodbye.